In this lesson, we're going to take a look at the connection between the cotton gin, a piece of equipment that's going to be invented, and its connection with slavery. You already know from past units that the South was largely agricultural, specifically cash crop agriculture, where crops were grown for cash payment. This chart shows there are 100 dots that you see here on the chart, and it may come as something of a surprise to you to learn that the number of whites that owned slaves in the South at the time, meaning the early 1800s, was 24%. Let's just round it and keep it at 25%, which means that 3/4 of Southern whites did not actually own slaves. It doesn't mean necessarily that they didn't want to, it's just that slaves were very expensive, and in the South we're looking at a class-based society. Most white Southerners were poor Southern farmers. All right, and even among the 24% that owned slaves, you can see in the yellow, majority of them owned only between 1 and 9 slaves. And life for in a household that only owned a slave or two, life for the slave was going to be very different than what we've come to expect in life on large plantations. Of course, the majority of slaves themselves lived on large plantations. So let's take a look at some of that. Here we have some photos and drawings around the time period that we're talking about. The plantation owners obviously owned the majority of the slaves. They were the elite of Southern society, socially and politically. And most slaves found themselves at work on large plantations, as we just said. Here's a picture of the cotton gin, which was invented by Eli Whitney in 1793, as the notes state. The issue regarding cotton was not particularly difficult to grow, but it was difficult to make money on because the little cotton balls were filled with these tiny little black cotton seeds, which needed to be removed in order to spin the cotton into thread and cloth. And the process of doing this by hand was very tedious. So you're going to see in a moment slides that show cotton production was not particularly significant until after 1820, until this invention that you see here. Let me see if I have a larger shot. There we go. Little hand crank machine took the very difficult job of separating the seeds from the cotton and actually made it quite easy. So now, as a result of this machine, a couple of things are going to happen. One is that growing cotton really could become an extremely profitable crop because there was a demand for cotton. We know this from the textile mills that were being developed. And as this chart shows, a lot more land is going to be placed into cotton production, which is going to necessitate the need for more slaves. So to put it simply, this single invention of the cotton gin is basically going to ensure that slavery in the South isn't going to go away ever, until, of course, the Civil War, which we'll take up in the next unit. These maps show what I was just talking about. The map on top shows cotton production in 1820, and you can see that there were some small areas in the South that had some degree of cotton production, but with the invention of the gin, you can see all of the land in the bottom map in those same southern states that was then put into cotton production. So of course you're going to need a tremendous number of slaves to plant it, tend it, and pick it, not of course necessarily to gin it. That most difficult job had been made easier. So our takeaway from this lesson today is that the invention of the cotton gin led to a dramatic increase in cotton production, which led to a dramatic increase in slavery in the South.